So in our last session, we talked about different type of language, Java language sets. One is character set, keywords. There are almost 50, close to 50 keywords, different keywords that we have available, and identifiers. Identifiers are like name for classes and variables and methods. So in identifiers, we can use special characters. You cannot use all the special characters in the beginning of your identifier, the name of your class or variables or methods. And data types we discussed, like there are in Java there are, we call it as a primitive data types. So we have almost 8 primitive data types. One is byte, short, int, long, float, double, char, boolean. So each one has their default values. If you don't assign a value, and each one will occupy certain memory in the JVM. So for example, int will take 4 bytes, but the default value is 0. Okay, so what I'm trying to say here is, if you define like this, right, to make your, let me clear it out. What we can do is, okay, this is declaring. Okay, this is a declaring a variable A of type int. That is how you're going to call. Okay, what is this line states? A variable of int a has been declared. Okay, and you haven't initialized with any value. By default it will get initialized with, if you don't initialize, by default system will initialize this value with 0 for int. Otherwise you can explicitly initialize whatever the value that you are interested in. This is called initialization. A got initialized with 1 to 1. This one is declaration. As part of declaration, it is by default initialized by JVM. Okay, so that is the difference, declaration versus initialization. Okay, next one is variables, an identifier which used to store some value. Okay, these are all variables. A is a variable. Now here in our case, A is a variable. Okay, the next one is constants. What are constants? Constants are nothing but fixed value. Constants are nothing but fixed value. So how do we declare a constant? How do we declare a constant? How do we represent a constant in Java? Constant fixed value will be represented in Java through keyword final. Final double C. Okay, so here you must initialize a constant value. You must initialize a constant value, otherwise you will get an error. I will show you, don't worry, I'll go through. Okay, so if you want to say, it's how do you read this thing? a final variable c of type double initialized with 0. A final variable c of type double initialized with 0. Okay, so that is how you read it. Okay, 0.0, generally double you will represent, right? Next thing is, so that is how constants are defined. So if you try to change this constant, right, now you initialized with, let's say, 10.0, okay, and if you come down here, try to change with some other value, 20.0, you will get an error. Cannot make a static reference to the non-static field. Oh damn, this one you're getting. Okay, just to save some time. Okay, don't worry. So this one, the final field hello world.c cannot be assigned. So this c variable cannot be modified. This c variable, once you define, cannot be modified. But if you try to remove this, the error is gone, right? So whenever you define a final variable, the value that you are initialized into c is fixed until your program is running. You cannot change, you may not able, it doesn't allow you to change. Okay, that is how we represent the using the word constants, using the word final. Okay, then literals. There are different type of literals we have. So we can call it as integer literals and floating point literals, character and string literals. Integer literals, floating point literals, and character literals, string literals. Okay, how do we represent them? Okay, keep in mind we are learning how to write a Java program by following the Java standards. Okay, so we are learning all the standards to write the program. So there are three things we are doing now in the next couple of places. What we are trying to do, we're learning Java language definitions, and we are trying to run through program those definitions. At the same time, as and when required, we learn the concepts behind it. Okay, so in the beginning these three overlap a little bit, but once we go into the complete this Java language definitions, we will be in the right path, like we'll be in the clear path, like we'll take concept, implementation and program. We'll see like in that format, but for now you can see overlaps in between. Okay, so integer literals. So integer literals are nothing but a typical writing all your what we can say is 0 to 9. Okay, so if you want to represent so decimal, so integer literals again divided into three parts. One is the decimal integer literals. So decimal integer literals are nothing but if you represent something between 0 to 9, then it will be called decimal integer literal. What does it mean is, let me show you. Int a equal to 1 2 3. So a is a literal of type decimal integer literal. Most of the time, 99.9% of the time, you go with decimal integer literals until and unless you are going into any software complete any stocks related projects kind of stuff, then only you will use different kind of literals. Otherwise you normally use regular literals, decimal integer literals. We use regularly decimal integer literals. So if you try to represent any value like this, it is still a decimal integer literal. Okay, so what are the different types? There are three different types, right? We discussed. One is decimal integer literals, octal integer literals, hexadecimal integer literals. What is octal decimal integer? What is the octal decimal integer? Octal decimal integer is represented in between 0 and 7. Octal is 8, right? So if you want to represent anything 0 to 7, that is total 8, then it will become octal integer literal. But decimal also having 0 to 7. So how do you distinguish between decimal and octal integer literals is, the way you need to write is int a, int b equal to, if you start with 0, okay, if you start with 0, then it becomes octal integer literal. Okay, and this is the way octal integer literal. Okay, in a single line, if you want to, this is just a comment. If this doesn't, Java doesn't execute this piece. It's just a comment for readability. Okay, this is decimal integer literal. Okay, so what are the different ways? If I try to represent, if I try to mention this one, you will get an error, because as you started with 0, so Java understands you are trying to represent octal integer literal, and octal integer literals starts with 0, ends with 7. So if you try to enter 8, it doesn't accept. You see my point? So it can be represented up to, any number can be represented up to 7, and if it starts with 0, then it is called octal integer literal. This one is 0 to 9, any number. Okay, so next one is hexadecimal integer literal. Hexadecimal integer literal is nothing but it has 0 to 9. Let me say vector integer literal. It represents 0 to 9 along with that, and A to F. So 0 to 9, 10 will be represented with A, 11 will be represented with B, 12 will be represented with C, 13 will be represented with D, 14 will be represented with E, 16 will be represented with F. Okay, so which means, how do you write in your Java program? How does the Java understand you are trying to convey an integer literal of type hecta? So you need to write, if you write something like 1 2 3, then if you start with these two, 0 and x, then it will understand you are trying to represent a number, of type hecta integer literal. Okay, so up to what I can represent? Hey, so even if it is a, even you try to write some characters, still it is accepted, because A has been represented as 10, right? So let me try to display these values. Okay, we'll see what we will get. I think that the value should be displayed into decimal integer literal. So let's see, SYS OUT, so that you can better understand. A, I'm trying to display A. Give me a second, I'm getting some noise. Let me mute others. Okay, so, and another value we need to display. C. Okay, let me run this program. Okay, we'll see what we'll get. See, this is decimal integer literal displayed as is, right? But if you try to define octal integer literal 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, what is the exact value of this octal integer literal in decimal? The way the output is for all the values, the output has been displayed in decimal integer Hey, is it happening for everyone or just for a couple of guys? Can you guys able to hear me? Okay. If at least one or two guys able to hear, then please go back and check your
Uh,
systems.
we can hear you, but the screen is not displaying here.
So 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, the value it is represented in octal integer literal, and if you want to see the value in decimal, then the value in decimal is 671. Okay, so how do we get that value is the conversion should be I'll show you the conversion process, like how the conversion will happen. The way we need to represent is 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, then 8. Let me take this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 7. So 8 power 0, 8 power 1, 8 power 2, 8 power 3. Okay, so 15 plus the value is here and I will continue this session. Whoever not able to see the screen, I'll upload the recording so that you can go ahead and watch it again. Okay, figure out some solution there, not a big deal. So yeah, if you go ahead and look into the Google, like how to convert a hexadecimal or octal integer into decimal, it will show you the steps to convert. So if you convert 0 1 2 3 7, then the value of in decimal is 671. If you try to convert 0x123a, the value is 4666 in decimal format. Okay, this is how you represent. Okay, you can even represent binary as well. Okay, so binary also you can represent such a way. Binary is nothing but you need to represent in what you called zeros and ones. Binary is 0 and 1, right? So int d equal to 0 b any 1 0, say whatever the format that you want. Okay, if you do this, you can get the binary. So what is this value in system dot out dot println? So if you try to display that, so this value, the value is 26. Okay, so that is how you represent binary. Binary, integer, literal. Okay, nice. So same way there are you can represent in floating point integer literals as well. Floating point, floating literals as well. Floating literals can be represented in two format. One is decimal notation, another one is exponential notation. Decimal notation, another one is exponential notation. So that we already see, like for example let's say double d equal to 123.23. okay, this is what decimal notation. This is how we represent in decimal notation. Okay, so let's say 123 dot yeah, 123.2. Let's say any value you can represent, right? So what happened? Okay, duplicate our so if you look at here, this is how you represent in floating decimal notation. And if you want to represent the same notation in exponential format, you can represent f equal to 1.23423. You move two values, 1.233 e to the power of 2. So you getting my point? So you shifted two values right next to the dot, then it becomes the power of 2. So these two values are same. E and F values are same. If you want to see, we can show it up like displaying these two values. See, the value of both the values are same, even though you represented in this exponential notation, floating point, floating exponential notation, okay, floating exponential notation. Also you can represent a floating literals in two formats. One is decimal notation, another one is exponential notation. Okay, and last two more literals are we have is character and string literals. Okay, character literals are anything that you represent a single character, then that will be called as character literal. Okay, so let's say char c equal to at the rate. So this it representing only one character, right? It can hold only one character. If you try to keep more than one, it will give an error. You getting my point? So a character literal can hold only one value in single quotation. Okay, single quotation. Then it is called character literal. This is character literal. Any value you can keep, single value. Okay. Okay. So if you try to keep more than one value in a single quotation and you try to assign that value to the character data type, then it will give you an error. Okay. So another last one is string literals. Okay, how do you represent string? String is a class. Okay, for now just remember string is a class, not a simple data type. Okay, so how do we represent string? String, any class name, okay, starts with capital letter. Remember that. Okay, string string name equal to, let's say simple way, first name equal to Siva. Okay, so how do we represent string literals? It will represent in double quotes, and any string that you can keep it here. Okay, anything you can keep it here, any numbers you can keep it here. Okay, any special characters you can keep it here. Okay, so this is called string literals. Okay, string literals. Okay, string literals are, string is a class, not a data type. Okay, and yeah, that's we are good with character literals, all literals. Now let's come down to operators. Okay, I believe you should know that plus operation, minus operation, or divided by, multiplication, percentile, this kind of the basic arithmetic operations. So now let's look arithmetic operations. Arithmetic operations, pardon my English. In arithmetic operations, like I mentioned, we have different type of arithmetic operators. We have like relational operators, and there are different type of operators we have. Among those are, arithmetic operators, relational operators, assignment operators, logical operators, unary operators, ternary operators, bitwise operators. So let's focus on the highlighted ones. So let's say int value 1 equal to 10. Okay, int value 2 equal to 20 or 20. Okay, 20. So now operations, what and all we can do. So another, if you want to do multiplication, right? So value 1 plus value 2. So the result will be 10 plus 20 equal to 30, but you need to hold it that value in some other integer, right? So you can say result, something like that, result. Okay, so this is additional operation, int addition, let's say. Okay, so multiplication, division, percent. Okay, so what and all you do, add star divided by percentage. So if you try to display them, then you will get the results like, let me show you quickly. I think you should, these things we shouldn't, I mean, you guys can simply understand, but as the beginning classes, let's do it, nothing wrong. In the beginning, everything is new, right? So no harm in trying it out, different things. Division and percentage. So these are the last four values. Addition is 10 plus 20, 30, 200, multiplication is 200, and division is 10 by 20. Basically you will get 0. But if you try to make a division as double and see the result, 0.0. Okay, and then percent. Okay, 10% by 20. Okay, what is the percentage value? So these are all the arithmetic operations. Next is relational relational operators. Relational operators are, let's say, double equals to, sorry, shift, double equals to is the relational operator, or is a relational operator, or greater than less, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So this is how you represent relational operators. Okay, and logical operators are double and, double or, and negation. Unary operators plus plus, minus minus. Ternary operator is a result will be captured in, I'll show you, I'll execute this program. Okay, and bitwise operator, you go back and check, this one is bitwise operators, we hardly use it on a day-to-day. Basically it was like what I can say is how can I explain bitwise operators? There is a bitwise AND, bitwise OR, bitwise XOR. So these kind of operations, right? Basically it will shift the values on the right side, shift the values on the left side. If you try to shift the values, if you try to shift on the right side, then the value become off of the whatever the value. Like if you have a 10 and if you try to shift the value to the right side, it will become 5, and if you try to shift 10 value into the left side, it will become 20. Okay, double the value. So those hardly nobody use, but keep in mind these are bitwise operators that can be used. Okay, so relational operators, let's see. Relational operators are if you want to compare these two values. Okay, if, relational operators, I need to explain you control statements, but it's okay. For example, okay, so if is the condition, if is just a plain English kind of thing, if is a condition we use to determine. Okay, so if value 1 double equals to value 2. Okay, so this is how you write if condition. That's why I said there will be some overlap, but it's okay. Okay, So if value 1 equal to value 2, is it true or not? If value 1 isn't equal to value 2, it's not true, right? So then both are equal. Else, if not, else means if not, what does it mean? Value 1 is not equal to value 2, then SYSOUT both are not equal. See, it displayed both are not equal because 10 and 2 is not equal, right? So this is how it evaluates the expression. Okay, if you assign this value, this is different and this one is different. Okay, you getting my point? So this will result into a Boolean value. Is it true or not? So let's say if I want to represent a negate, is one like this. If value 1 not equal to value 2, then both are not equal, else both are equal. You see my point? So this is how you represent negate. Double equals to negate anything. Like let's say another option is let me try to keep it here. If value 1 is greater than value 2, then you need to write value 1 is bigger, else value 2 is bigger. So let's run the program. See, value 2 is bigger, 20 is bigger than 10, right? So it doesn't satisfies, it becomes false. When it becomes false, it doesn't execute the statements within that if block, it will go to else block. Okay. Okay. So those are the equals operators, and greater than or equal to. Assignment operator is simple, like you will assigning some value, like here we are all assigning, right? So whatever the result we are assigning it to add, we are assigning it to multiplication. This is the variable, right? Okay. So what is the ternary operator? How do we write the ternary operator, right? So ternary operator is doing two operations together. Let's say instead of this, okay, if you want to, instead of this, what you can do is value 1 greater than value 2. If that is true, that's what we are trying to say here, then what you can say is value 1 is bigger, else value 2 is bigger. So you need to take it into some value, right? So I'm taking it to string because it's a long string, right? So result. So this is how you represent ternary operator, can be represented in this way. So this operation has been now represented in a single condition, right? So what we can do, if this condition is true, then after question mark, this is the operator style. This is how we operate. Okay, your expression based on result. If true, this will be executed, else false section will be executed. So this expression become true, then this piece will be executed. If expression becomes false, this piece will be executed after semicolon. Okay, that's what it means. Okay, so let's display the result. See what I'm saying? value 2 is bigger. So this one is displayed. Okay. Instead of writing like in if else condition in the big block, if you can make addition in a single line, then you can try this. Make sense? Okay. Give me a second. Let me switch on the light. Ternary operator is done. Logical and logical OR negation operation. Okay. So logical and logical OR is what we can do is so logical, we call it as logical and logical OR. Logical AND can be represented in logical OR represented in pipe. Okay, pipe. Here let's try to write int x equal to 1. Okay, and int y equal to 2. Okay, so we have x and y and variables. Okay, let's write a logical operation. Okay, how can we write is if x is equal to 1, so this one is different from this one. Okay, keep in mind this is assignment operator. You are assigning one value to x, but this is evaluation expression. You are verifying whether x value and the value that you mentioned is correct or not. Okay, if this is one result and let's say y equal to y assigned to, if y is 2, then do this operation. Okay, so what I'm going to say is yes. Okay, so else something like that. No. Let me run this program. So it's saying yes, so which means this line is executed. What does it mean? This section is executed in the sense this section is becomes true. What x assigned to 1 is true, and y assigned to 2, it is also true. 2 and true becomes true in and ampersand and. So how do we write is, if you remember, like true expression and true becomes true, true ampersand false becomes false, false ampersand true becomes false, false false becomes false, right? So this is the logical and decisions. Okay, this is one expression result, this is another expression result, and becomes the actual result after applying the ampersand. Okay, logical and. Makes sense? True and true becomes true, remaining all becomes false in case of logical and. So if you want to show you, so x is assigned to true, this becomes true, this one is like if say 1, then it becomes displays no, it displays no. So it doesn't executed this one because it becomes, the entire section becomes false. So it goes to else block. Okay, so that is good. And the logical OR is represented like true, logical OR, true is true, true, logical OR, false also true, false, logical OR, true equal to true, false, logical, false, another false equal to false. So only when both false are there, it will become false. Remaining all cases, it is true when in OR, logical OR. Okay. So now because of the AND, logical AND, as y is not equal to 1, y is 2, actual value, y value is 2, 2 double equal to 1 is becomes false. So it doesn't execute this statement, a statement, but it represents no statement. But in case of logical OR, in case of logical OR, what happens is this is true or logical OR and this is false. True and false becomes true. So this time the result will be displayed as yes. So which means if one of the expression between the logical operator becomes true, then that condition, the logic will get executed. Make sense? Okay, nice. Next one is ternary operator, logical operators. Perfect. So last one, this is important. Control statements. This is why we already unknowingly we started using already if condition, right? So control statements are condition statement, like, okay, if this happens, do this. If this doesn't happen, do this. If this one happens, do this. Or else, okay, if this happens, keep on doing it. Until this happens, keep doing it. If this happens, keep on doing it. If something happens, don't do it. So these are the typical things, right? I mean, these are different conditions. Based on conditions, your statements will execute. See, why this statement and this statement both are not executed together? Because a condition has been there, like if something becomes true, then execute this statement. If doesn't become true, then execute this statement. So conditions, right? So there are four to five ways to represent these conditions. One is if condition, like if, like you meant, like I showed you, one simple way, if expression, then continue. So this is the let me write it here. So if this is the way to represent if condition, so whatever the logic that you write, this becomes true or false, then if it become true, this expression, then this block will be executed. Otherwise this block doesn't executed. Okay, so a block can be represented with arrow braces and corresponding close braces should be there. Okay, then what is this is if, what is if else, which means if simple if expression true, then execute this block. So these statements, blah 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 statement, blah 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 statement. Okay, some statement, else do this. If this one becomes true, do this. Else do this part, whatever the else block. Okay, this is if block, the highlighted. And if that doesn't become true, if the expression becomes false, then execute this block. There is another way, further, if expression, do this, else if, do this, else, here again expression you need to keep, right? Else if expression, do this, last default else, do this. So if expression becomes true, then do this and come out. Don't do execute all these things. Else if again if condition, check if this becomes true, execute this block. Else if this becomes true, execute this block. Or else if any of them doesn't become true, default value, execute this block. Okay, so this is how if condition has been represented. Okay, so next one is what? If then else switch. Switch is represented with switch statement. What is the best example you can take? Yeah, simple one, right? Operators. Let me write a new program. Class operators. I thought we should finish this language today. Looks like it's not happening, but it's okay. You're at the beginning, right? It's okay. So let's write a simple int. Let's take string day. Okay, I'll say it as Monday. Okay, and now what I will do is if day assigned to Monday, then display today is Monday. Else if, I'll copy paste to save some time. If Tuesday SYSOUT today is Tuesday. Okay, like that you can write as many else conditions until like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and finally you end up not finding any day. They enter some wrong number. Then what you can do? You can say please enter valid date. Okay, so now if I run this program, today is Monday. So let's say I changed a little bit. Okay, here mday. Okay, please enter valid day, because this condition doesn't satisfy, this condition also not satisfied, so it will enter into default value. Okay, so this is the if else conditions representation. So what is the switch? Switch is you can represent all these conditions in a single format, switch based. Okay, how do I represent is let's take can we represent, I'm just trying to see one scenario, give me a second. Yeah, so what we can do is you can directly into what and all values we can enter. Also I can explain you, don't worry. Switch is the same thing we can represent in switch SWIT switch case. How do we represent in different way? Same conditions. Like you want to display based on some value, you want to display today is Monday, Tuesday is that kind of thing. So what you can do is switch switch. Switch is a keyword, if is a keyword, else is a if keyword. Okay, remember that. I'm not going to repeat again going forward. Okay, switch, this is how you represent. What is the case here? Like if day, switch day. Okay, that is condition. I'll explain, don't worry. So case Monday, then I'll say SVSUT, copy, save template. Today is Monday case, and once you get to know there is no point in continuing, so break it and come out. Else case Tuesday, then do this, change the date. Okay, continue the same cases, as many as you want. Okay, I'm just I'll directly going to default case. Okay, if nothing is found, default. Okay, please enter a valid date. So this is how you write a switch case. Okay, so here you can enter integer and you can check, like, let's say 1 and case 1 here. Okay, or else string, a character, whatever the value that you want. Okay, just it needs to match, like, now in our case, now in our case it's a Monday. Let's fix it. Okay, so we expect to display today is Monday in switch case, just to distinguish from the if else. Okay, so if I run this program, what should I expect? Today is Monday in switch case, and this if condition also executes. Today is Monday, 2 lines you can see. So today is Monday, this line is executed from if else condition, and this line is executed came from here, switch case. So what happens in switch case? A switch and a braces like this. So this one is done, right? So next one is switch, switch, switch expression or value braces. Inside you can write as many cases. Case, the expression or value should match with the case value. Okay, let's say 1 or string or whatever, and then you can do whatever the statements that you want to execute. You can write execute whatever the statements that you want to execute, and then if this case matches, there is no point in going for, like, let's say here Monday has been matched, right? If the Monday has been matched, what is the point in going and checking the Tuesday? What is the point in going and checking the default? What is the point in going and checking Thursday, right? So as and when you find it, break switch, come out, break switch, so that this piece doesn't execute at all, right? Let's say in case of Tuesday, if I change it to Tuesday, what will happen? It will try to check this condition fails, it will try to check this condition. If this condition becomes true, then it will execute this line, and then it breaks it and comes out. Default doesn't execute. Only default executes if all the cases that has been defined above default doesn't execute, then default will execute. Okay, makes sense? Nice. And another one is we need to do is while first statement. There are 3. Okay, we can finish it, not a big deal. so that tomorrow we can do 1 or 2 programs, and I'll give you a bunch of assignments. So same thing, while condition slash expression, anything you can call it as. Okay, do these things. That's it. So while this condition satisfies, as long as this condition is satisfying, do this piece, repeat. Okay, you getting my point? And there is another condition is do while expression slash condition. So this is another way of control statement. Okay, this is called as do while, this is while. Okay, this is do while and that is while. So sorry, difference between do while and while is just condition while true. If this condition is true, then only the statements will execute here, whatever the statements in this section. Okay, whatever the only if it becomes true, then all the statements become within this while block will keep on executing. Okay, but do while, what will happen, irrespective of the condition, your block will be executed once, and then based on your expression that has been defined in the while, then your block will repeat again. Okay, here as long as this condition is true, this expression is true, this while block keep repeating. Okay, loop kind of thing. Okay, but here as long as irrespective of your condition, one time this piece of code will execute for sure, but later based on your while condition, your block will execute. Okay, that is do while and while. And last one is for 3 parts: initialization, condition, increment or decrement, and statement. This is how you represent. So how do you write this one? For, let's say, okay, int I assigned to 0, I is less than or equal to 10, I plus, increment that. So what will happen? So this is how you represent a same loop. So as long as this condition is satisfying, this loop keep repeating. As long as this condition is satisfying, and each time this loop repeats, the I value will keep on increase. So first time when it executes, the I value is 0, and 0 is less than or equal to 10, and then first these 2 lines will execute, and then all the conditions that you have been written here executes, and then I value becomes increment. So I becomes 1, and now again 1 is less than or equal to 10. Yes, it is less than or equal to 10, so it will go and execute whatever the statements here, and then I will become 2 because you are asking for increment, so I becomes 2. And again I checks, one time initialization, every time condition check, and after performing all these operations, that all the statements that we have defined inside for loop block, after completing this, it will increment, and then it will again validate the condition. Okay, initialization, condition, and increment and decrement. There are different ways in for loop, but for now this is the best way for you to start. Okay, makes sense? Nice. So tomorrow we will do a program on this, all the 3, do while and for loop. Once I finish this conditions, then we kind of good with the Java language process, Java language terminology. Let's say we learned ABCD. Okay, we will learn a couple of words as well, like in English, once you learn alphabetics, you'll start learning words, right? Same thing we'll start doing some methods and what is the class, how do you write the class, and how do you compile, what will happen compile. As of now we are just running the program without explaining you to guys, but next session we'll do a couple of programs on these things, and we're going to discuss how the compilation happens, how the .class file generates, and then we'll take the object oriented concepts if time permits. Okay, thanks.